Hey guys, I'm Alistair and this is the Altra Lone Peak 9. Let's start by going over who the Lone Peak 9 is designed for. So the Lone Peak series has been going for quite a while now, and I've used quite a few over the years. And what makes it so popular among so many runners is the fact, firstly, it's a zero drop running shoe, meaning there's no drop or incline from heel to toe. It really is a neutral ride. It also has a low stack height and it has a nice wide toe box. So it's a really nice grounded feel for those who want a nice neutral run and just to feel really natural when you're running. And I say that in terms of really feeling connected with the trails, but also natural in terms of footfall and your running form, because we are naturally designed to not have any drop. Just imagine if you were wearing no shoes at all, you would have no drop, you'd be barefoot. And the Altra Lone Peak series is kind of elevating that barefoot running feel, giving you that zero drop, but just adding extra protection underneath your foot for the trails. So I've been testing this on my local trails. I've been hammering it around some technical trails, steep climbs, steep technical downhill sections, flat sections, so I can see how fast and responsive this shoe is, but also muddy sections, wet, dry, loose, gravel, all that kind of stuff. I put this through pretty much everything you would imagine to expect on an all-mountain trail. So stick around and you're going to find out just exactly how the Altra Lone Peak 9 performs as an all-mountain trail running shoe. But first, let's go over those key specifications. They cost $140, which is very reasonable for an all-mountain trail running shoe. I will let you know by the end of this review if I believe it's worth that price tag. They have a zero drop, as I mentioned earlier, meaning there is no drop from heel to toe. The stack height is 25 millimeters at the heel and 25 millimeters under the forefoot. And they weigh 10.5 ounces or 298 grams for a size US men's 9. That's my pair. The upper mesh is using 100% recycled ripstop mesh, which is pretty breathable. It's not the most breathable material out there, but it is very durable and protective. There are no sew overlays as well, meaning it's extra durable in areas where the parts of the upper connect. The midsole is using the fairly firm Ultra Ego foam with stone guard protection, which gives you extra protection from things like sharp objects on the trails underfoot. And that certainly works very well. The outsole is using Ultra's Max Track rubber compound with fairly aggressive lugs, and traction on here is actually really good, and I put that down to the rubber compound. And some of the extras include a finger loop at the heel and a gaiter system. Altra is calling this the gaiter trap system. All that means is it's the system at the heel for connecting a gaiter. So you've got this Velcro section here. You would hook the gaiter at the heel. And then at the front of the shoe, you've got this little loop here to connect the front of the gaiter. The gaiter doesn't come with these shoes, you have to buy that separately, but it's nice knowing you've got a system within the shoe that allows you to connect the gaiter if you are running on any sandy or dusty or very dirty trails where some of that dirt is likely to creep in around the collar and the heel counter. Then that's what you need a gaiter for. It literally protects your shoe from any trail debris getting in. When it comes to sizing and fit, it has a very much true to size fit in length, but it also has a very wide fit. Most of the width is actually coming from the toe box here, but it is quite roomy in the midfoot as well. This shoe is wider than the Lone Peak 8 for anyone wondering about that. So if you have very narrow feet, you might not get on with these that well, but if you've got medium to wide feet, you're gonna love the fit. And there are quite a few reasons why having a wide toe box is good, which I'll go over in my performance review. It also has nice low ankle walls or collars, and that's especially good if you are one of those runners out there who has low ankle bone geometry. You know who you are. If you run in shoes and you've felt most of the shoes contact the bottom of your ankle because the collars are too high, then this is really good for you guys. So hopefully knowing that will help some of you. If you're enjoying this review, please give the video a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe to my channel for more running shoe reviews just like this one. I always keep things genuine, honest, and as insightful as possible so that you can determine whether the shoe I'm reviewing is going to be good for you. But if you're not sure, you've got questions about this shoe that I haven't answered, or you're just not sure where to start, you need some help, let me know in the comments down below and I'll get you hooked up with the best running shoes for you. And that goes for road or trail. Right, let's get into my performance review. I'm going to start with the things I really like about the Altra Lone Peak 9. First thing I'm going to mention is the outsole traction. It's just fantastic. Altra's Max Track rubber compound works really well. I like the lug placement and the fact they're fairly aggressive and they do claw into the trails. That goes for going up steep climbs because there are some lugs on the front of the toe, so if you do have a steep incline you do get traction in those scenarios, but also going down steep downhills you have a nice reverse chevrons at the heel, so it does catch you if you do slip, so it's got great traction. The platform on the bottom is also very wide, so you've got a nice large surface area to grip to when you're running down steep declines. But also if you're turning tight corners, then you've got good traction with a nice wide platform like this. They've performed really well in wet, muddy conditions, but also on rocky sections, dusty sections, and forest trails. The traction does a great job. Speaking of attraction, there's also a nice little kick out at the heel here, which gives you a bit of stability as you're going downhills, but also extra traction that you wouldn't have under the heel if you didn't have this kick out. So that's a nice little feature. Next feature is what Altra's very famous for. That's this wide toe box. So I really like having a wider toe box in trail running shoes, particularly because if I am climbing up steep inclines, then I need my toes to be able to splay out as I'm bending them and getting more power up the climb. If you can't splay your toes, you can't get as much power. So I really like the fact that it's wide because it allows me to do that, but also just having a little bit of extra room, it just feels more natural and airy within the shoe so my feet don't overheat. Plus, if you're just someone who has very wide toe section in your feet, then you actually do need a wide toe box. So it's nice knowing that shoes do exist that cater to feet shape like that. Next feature is the zero drop. Now, while it won't be for everyone, because you do have to get used to running in a zero drop. If you do a lot of climbing on the trails and you switch over to a zero drop, you're going to notice it, especially in your calves and your Achilles. But if you stick with it, you will end up with better form on the trails over time, and because of it, better control and just general performance. Just be aware, if you're not used to zero drop and you want to try these out, you will feel like you're working a lot harder. But over time, you're going to experience the benefits of feeling more grounded to the trails and of course getting more control. The stone guard in the midsole does a really good job of protecting my feet on the trails. I have been running on quite a lot of sharp, small rocks, especially on some of my descents. And actually it's done a really good job of protecting my feet. I don't feel any of that underfoot, which is impressive because it is a low stack height. And without that plate, I undoubtedly would be feeling some sharp rocks. The next thing I like is the gaiter trap. I haven't used it with these particular Lone Peak 9s, but if I was to ever do a race and I really needed gaiters, then it's nice knowing that that feature is available. Now I'm going to go over some of the things that I feel could be improved for the next version, or at least things you should be aware of if you're thinking about buying a shoe. First up is the midsole. There's not a huge amount of cushioning in there. It's quite firm and more on the responsive side rather than cushioned or plush. So if you're not used to running in a low stack height shoe, you might feel this if you're running longer distances. But like I said, the zero drop and low stack height style of running is just something you get used to. And what I mean by that is the more you wear a shoe with a low stack height, the more lightly you're going to tread because your legs and your biomechanics just won't be able to take the pounding otherwise. So your body naturally learns how to run differently and to cater to a more natural low stack height midsole like this. So it's really hard to judge if you are just going to switch right away and try a zero drop shoe. You have to stick with it for a few weeks just to get used to the new style of running. Let your muscles get used to being worked more, and let your stride develop to a more light-footed stride. And eventually, I think you're either going to really love this style of running, or it just won't be for you. Either way, I encourage you to try it, just to see. With that said, I feel like there's just a little bit of a lack of rebound from this midsole. It's not a huge amount of forward propulsion, so I feel like I'm putting in a lot of extra work that I might not have to do on some other trail running shoes just to get speed out of them on the flats. That said, this low stack height and zero drop gives me great control navigating steep technical downhills, but the other edge of the sword, when I'm climbing steep inclines, I'm noticing more work on my calves and my Achilles. So just watch out for those things. Know what stack heights and drops do for your run. If you do want to learn about stack heights and drops and how it affects your run, read this article I wrote. It's not very long. By the end of it, you'll be an expert on what drops and stack heights mean for you on your run. And that will no doubt help you choose your next pair of shoes. Next thing then is the midfoot. It's quite roomy in this shoe, so if you have narrow feet, you might struggle. You might be able to get a tight fit from this lacing system, but I don't know, you might be on the edge there. You might struggle to get that perfect fit. If you have medium to wide feet, you'll be fine. There's a lot of volume. The laces are plenty long enough. Probably too long actually, in my opinion. And whilst I'm on that point, because the laces are quite long, they do flap around a bit when I'm running. So I think it'd be really nice if Altra could put a little elasticated loop on the front of these shoes. It'd be very easy to do. And in that loop, then I could just tuck the laces in, stop them flapping around. A lot of trail running shoes nowadays are adding that feature. Very easy to do, doesn't add much weight, but if you are going to provide very long laces, then I feel like you need to provide a loop like that to stow them. Well, that's it for my performance review. There was quite a lot to cover there. And I wanted to get it right because this shoe is very much a double-edged sword. Is it worth $140? Well, 100% for the right person who wants to feel grounded on the trails, who wants to run in a zero drop shoe and knows how that minimal feel, what it means for them and their run. But for those who don't get on with zero drops and the low stack height, it's not going to be for you. So I think you really have to determine whether or not this style of running is for you before being able to know if this shoe is for you. And all I can recommend there is maybe going to try this in a running shop or buying it, and if you don't get on with it, maybe you can return it. Definitely look for stores like that. Particularly REI, I think, does it, and maybe even the Altra running store. My point is, you have to know if a zero drop, low stack height shoe is going to work for you on your trails. I think most people it will work out if you're willing to give this style of running a try. But for those who don't have the patience for that, maybe you just want a cushioned running shoe on the trails, this one won't be for you. So yes and no. I hope that helps. If you've got any questions about the Altra Lone Peak 9 at all, or maybe you want some advice on getting into barefoot running or the zero drop running style, how do you even get into that? Well, I've actually written some articles on that topic myself, so just let me know if you've got any particular questions there and I can very quickly answer in the comments. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, share it with a friend and subscribe to my channel for more running shoe reviews just like this one. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.